This is Googie Ballyhoo, and today I want to talk about tarot snobbery. It's a subject that I've been thinking about a lot, and I've been thinking about it in many different aspects. So, first of all, tarot is a complicated subject because, like so many things that we as a culture enjoy, are often appropriation, and tarot is no exception to that. It is an appropriation of an unwritten culture of Romani people or Romani people, and as such, tread lightly and with respect for it in the first place. Um, I will cover that on another day in another video because it is something as an avid tarot reader of over more than 20 years, I struggle with. I really do have a problem with it. And so if you request it and if you want to know about it, I'm happy to dig into it with you because I'm still learning about it as culture appropriation as well. And so the reason I bring that up in this video specifically is because I find it odd that the people who are the most closed about tarot and people's rights to practice it or their qualifications to practice it or their efficiency or their efficacy at practicing it are questioned by people who are already appropriating something that doesn't belong to them. Me either. I'm not Romani, and I don't know any of my culture. Honestly, I'm adopted, and so I know what my DNA test, my heritage is just from a DNA test. But other than that, I don't know anything about my family, my culture. I don't know what I'm appropriating from whom most of the time. But I am super conscious about it. I do care. And so that is something that needs to be talked about in terms of any practice that we engage in that's spiritual, that is not originally our own. But today, what I want to talk about is this sort of snobbery that revolves around people's decks, like what they choose to practice with, what they like to use. And I have like 7 decks. Some of them are really just like, I think my husband's got me at least two practical joke decks. Like one is an erotic deck, which is weird and hilarious, and then another one is an oracle deck. And let me just start out by saying, if you are super worried about appropriation, if it's a concern, if it's something that you don't want to be involved in any way, oracle cards, as long as they're not culturally appropriate in their content, oracle cards are on the table. Literally, like, just pick them up. You're not taking anything from anybody. But today I'm going to talk about my decks, and I'm going to talk about other people's decks. And this can be a conversation. It's open. So please, if you are interested, go ahead and comment. Please subscribe. Please like. I encourage you to do that for me. So I'm going to start. I'm going to try to show you some decks, and I'm always worried about my lighting, but here we go. Awesome. Okay. So another thing that I purposely did today is I did not dress up. I didn't put any makeup on. I don't have any wigs on. I'm wearing it's hot in my house today, and I don't really know why. And it's cooling down a little bit, and that's nice, but I didn't dress up. I'm obviously dressed for the weather. And that was intentional. I'm sending a message by doing that. I want you to be paying attention to the subject matter and not not the dress up party that I often engage in. And there is a reason that I do that. And so uh, well, I'll talk about that at another later date as well. So let's get into cards. Let's talk about the decks that I have. And let's start a little bit with them. Okay, so one of my first decks that I got was the Ethereal Visions. I really love this deck. It's beautiful. It's sort of Art Nouveau esque, and this deck is like most decks based on the cards, the images, and the symbology in the Kabbalah tradition of the original Rider-Waite-Smith deck. When we talk about the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, that was the 1900s early spiritualist movement deck. And when we add the name Smith to it, we're talking about Pamela Smith. Pamela Smith is going to be the artist who made the artistic designs for the cards. And she often gets left out of the conversation, even though obviously we're still copying her work. And so Rider-Waite is a great deck, and most decks are based on it because it is sort of the original. It's sort of the breakaway from the playing card deck that we're used to, that you can read with, a lot of people do, that gives you basic meanings, and it adds the major arcana to that. So what makes Rider-Waite so great? I think that what makes it great is Pamela Smith. Like, honestly, it was the artist. So she was given the parameters, she created the illustrations, and the illustrations have symbolism in them that helps someone divining to do the job of telling someone else's fortune. And so it's based on Kabbalah, and that in and of itself is an appropriation of Jewish practices. So again, appropriation. It is the gold standard of decks, and we're going to talk about appropriation every time we talk about cards. But I will say that the cards that are based on the Rider-Waite deck are the ones that people use the most often. And most people consider them to be the most accurate. The next deck that I'm going to talk about a little bit. So Ethereal Visions, same 78 cards, basic same symbolism, no diversity. So if you are looking for, and I'm looking through these cards to see if they're anything other than really white people, and I don't. And that's okay. But recognize and realize that a lot of the people that sit with you are not going to be white. And so they're going to be looking for a little diversity. You get a little more in the Morgan Greer deck, which is the next card deck I'm going to talk about. So the Morgan Greer deck, there are some brown folks in here, and that's nice to see. It's refreshing. They're not all white faces, which is nice. And it has the same basic symbolism and the basic same images as the Rider-Waite deck again. And so you can read and interpret them using that same Kabbalistic imagery and symbolism. No problems with that deck. I've never had anybody complain about those decks. And the next deck I think that I'm going to talk about is the Prism Visions. And this was created by an artist named James R. Eads, I'm sorry. And these are often counterfeited. They're very interesting in that if you lay out any suit all the way up to kings is going to have a visual novel feel to it. So if you lay out the suit, it's going to tell a complete story within each suit. And this the interesting thing to me about that is the 78 cards are supposed to represent a journey anyway. They're supposed to represent the journey of the fool. So he starts the fool, and as he learns and other things happen to him, the hero's journey is revealed. So there's some Joseph Campbell in there. There's some Jungian psychology in there where we're talking about shared genetic memory, archetypes rather. And I'm trying to get a suit together so you can see one entire suit and how it lays out here. And this is a little different. Some of the cards will differentiate by, instead of saying cups, they'll say chalices, or instead of saying swords, they'll say daggers or arrows or any other kind of projectile or weapon. And so this one is going to say cups or chalices rather than cups. And so I know I'm just sort of going on here, but I'm having a hard time finding all my pentacles because I'm drawing out the pentacles so I can show you a little story and how it's laid out within this deck specifically. That's their strength card. It's really beautiful. It's I like to try to show you the cards. The strength card here has the lion. And the thing that's sort of missing from this strength card, imagery-wise, is the lady, the gentle side of strength. So when we look at the strength card, when we think about strength in terms of a tarot card, we think about how the concept of courage is also tempered by gentility. And so not having that present, that's going to be one of the differences in a deck. You might have certain images that don't exist, and those images do affect your translation of the meaning of the card for other people. And I find that to be a challenge. To sort of push that out of your mind and respect a new perspective within the cards. And that's sort of where snobbery comes into play. So a lot of people are going to stick by Rider Waite. They're going to say go to the original, the good old original, and they're not going to vary from that. And that is a legitimate viewpoint. However, I don't begrudge anybody connecting with a deck that tells them the story in a way that they understand better and not having anything to do with anything except how the reader, the tarot card reader, interpret those cards. I find that is unusual and it makes me sad. Okay. 5, 10. Queen. 2. That's 3. And then we're going to go to 9. And so I don't know how much of this that I can fit in a frame, to be honest with you. These cards are so interesting in that they definitely create one whole painting when you look at them all together, if you put them all together. So I've got 1, 2, 3, and I'm looking for 4. Because I think that if I could just get to 4, yeah, I can show you how the cards tell a little story that is one whole painting. Okay. 7. So I've just pulled out the 7 cards from this deck. I want to show you, and I hope that you can see. Yeah, that's a whole painting right there, right? You're looking at, we start with the Ace of Pentacles, and it's a door that's opened, sure. So you look at that and you see a chance, right, for a new beginning. Then we've got the Two of Pentacles, and we have a choice, and the 3. But you can see it's a whole story being told within all of these cards. And I hope you can see them with all of these cards. With one, it's all one painting if you laid all the suits out together. And so, to me, as a reader, that is helpful because I can pick out the parts of that story because I know they're there because I've studied this deck. And I love it. I love the interpretation. I love that some of them are based on famous paintings. You can see famous paintings in here. I love it. But again, if you got a traditionalist, they might be worried about the variation between the imagery in those cards and the Rider-Waite deck. And then second to last, but not last, I've got the Wild Unknown deck. And so many of you know that this is my favorite deck, and that's the 3 of Hearts. And I think that or the 3 of Swords, rather. And I think that that's a really good representation of that card. However, this is why I'm talking about this today. So I was with a friend, and we were comparing styles because we're getting ready to do a project together. And they admitted to me that many people don't have respect for that deck. And not this deck specifically. This one got me thinking about it, but I'm not picking on this deck because I love this deck. So the Wild Unknown, it's a lot of animals, imagery, and there's mixed media in it. And it's, again, a very artistic representation. And this is where you get some of the snobbery, right? So the person who illustrated these cards supposedly, I think it's Kim Kranz, supposedly studied tarot for like a year and then made these cards. That's the complaint. The complaint is that this is a person who isn't experienced enough in tarot to actually have taken all the spiritual aspects of it and the religious traditions of it and all of those things. My dog is grumbling over here, and it made me sad. I think he was having a little bad dream. That it's not respectful to the truth of the cards. And I understand that. And also, go away. I don't know what to say. All of this was man-made, right? Nobody came down from heaven and drew the cards and then handed them to somebody and then said, there you go, that's all there can be. No, it can't be changed. This is all we got. That's dumb. And so if someone in a year made the connections that they needed to make spiritually to create this deck, if the person who picks up that deck feels the meaning of the cards and is able to interpret those cards in a way that leads them to legitimate divination, then so what? It's like, what are we doing? Why are we gatekeeping each other? And it always bothers me. And I think snobbery is a really strange habit of people who are doing the same thing and have the same goals. And it bothers me. And so I wanted to take some time to talk about it, to go over these decks with you, to show you what I know about them to be true, to talk a little bit about the history of the original deck, and just to go over that with you. The last deck that I've got is the Weaver Tarot. And It's by Threads of Fate. Threads of Fate makes a bunch of different kinds of cards. It's got this nice back here. It comes in this nice box, blah, 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 blah. And then when you look at it, I don't know if you can see, if I tilt it certain ways, the light hits them in a really cool way. Again, you're going to have people who are going to say it's a parlor trick. You know, this is, they're bright colors, so what? Or they're chromatic on a black background, so what? If you connect with a set of cards, if a set of cards works for you, if you have an understanding that you can pass to someone else through the meaning and your interpretation of those cards, don't let people tell you differently. I will say research everything you do. Look at these cards. Read the guidebooks. Don't go by the guidebooks, but read the guidebooks, because the artists have put their own spin on them, as everyone will do. Read the guidebooks. Figure out what you need to figure out. Learn about the cards. And if you are practicing honestly, if you are taking your passion and you are working with it, learning about it, studying it, nobody has anything to say. And the people that you read for, generally, unless you're reading for someone who is exactly like you, they don't really know what they're talking about either. Right? Don't worry about it. I get really tired of snobbery, and I got sort of worked up by that one conversation. And I just want to say to you that if you are a person who believes that there is only one way and that is your way, then keep your way to you. Don't force that on other people. That is my 2 cents. I don't really have anything else to say. The next time we talk, I do want to talk briefly, and I want to talk about appropriation, specifically the appropriation of the tarot tradition from the Romani people. I know that is an area of concern, and I do think about it, and it's not without respect and a certain amount of trepidation that I actually do participate in tarot reading. But I truly am a person who doesn't have or know any of my own traditions from my family. And so I'm just living life, going through it as best I can, and everyone else is too. And respect each other, love each other. If you think you can teach somebody something, that is different than if you think you can correct somebody, right? That's a different thing. So that's all. All cards pretty much created equal. You will find your audience of people that you want to read for and who want you to read for them. Keep learning, keep practicing. Don't give up. Don't let anybody keep you down. Don't let the bastards keep you down, right? Okay. That is all that I have for you for now. I'm going to go and I'm going to edit this a little bit, I think, and then I'm going to post it. Thank you, lone one person that has stuck with me for the entire 23 minutes and at this counting 53 seconds. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a beautiful and wonderful day, and I will talk to you again soon. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.